Stop being the nice girl. Being labeled as the nice girl may seem like a compliment, but it often comes with hidden burdens. From childhood, many of us are taught that being nice is the key to acceptance, success, and love. But there's a difference between being kind and being so nice that you lose sight of who you really are. The world is filled with people who will take advantage of your kindness if you let them. It's time to stop being the nice girl and start becoming the woman you were always meant to be. From a young age, many of us are conditioned to believe that our value is directly tied to how much we can do for others. We are taught that being kind, generous, and helpful are essential virtues, and while these traits can be valuable, they can also be misused or misunderstood. The idea of being a nice girl often comes with the assumption that pleasing others is the ultimate goal. This mindset, however, can lead to self-neglect, frustration, and a sense of emptiness. The first step in breaking free from this cycle is recognizing that your worth is not dependent on how much you give or how much you sacrifice for others. Your worth is inherent, and it doesn't need to be validated by the approval of others. Society often encourages women to be accommodating, gentle, and considerate. The expectations placed upon us can create a feeling of obligation to always be nice, to always put others first. As a result, we can become people pleasers, constantly saying yes to requests, even when it inconveniences us, even when it takes a toll on our mental or emotional health. We might believe that by doing this, we'll earn love, appreciation, or recognition. But the reality is that this behavior usually only leads to exhaustion and resentment. Over time, it can feel as though we are living for everyone else's approval rather than for ourselves. When we base our self-worth on how much we can give or how others perceive us, we give up our personal power. We allow external factors to determine our sense of value instead of cultivating a strong internal foundation. Your worth does not depend on what others think of you, how much you do for them, or how often you accommodate their needs. It exists simply because you are you. You have inherent value as a human being, and that value isn't contingent on how much you can do for others. The moment you begin to shift your mindset from seeking validation from the outside world to recognizing your inner value, you free yourself from the constant need for approval. The need for external validation can be exhausting and never truly satisfying. When we constantly seek to please others, we may end up neglecting our own desires, needs, and boundaries. Over time, this can lead to feelings of resentment and frustration because the approval we sought so desperately is often fleeting and conditional. People may appreciate our efforts in the moment, but that appreciation may not last, or worse, it may be taken for granted. The nice girl becomes trapped in a cycle where her worth is defined by how much she gives, and this cycle is never ending. No matter how much she sacrifices or how often she tries to please, it's never enough. Instead of measuring your value by what you can do for others, take time to focus on who you are and what you need. Your worth is not tied to being available at all times, to constantly saying yes, or to putting others before yourself. You have the right to prioritize your own happiness, peace, and well-being. Understanding this fundamental truth is the key to breaking free from the nice girl persona and reclaiming your personal power. The more you understand and embrace your worth, the more you'll realize that you don't need to earn love or approval by being overly accommodating or self-sacrificial. When you stop looking to others for validation, you start to build confidence in your own abilities, choices, and desires. You begin to recognize that your feelings matter, your needs are important, and you are worthy of respect and consideration. This shift in mindset allows you to make decisions that are aligned with your true self, not out of fear or a desire to please others. You start to trust your intuition, listen to your inner voice, and prioritize your own growth and happiness. This is the essence of self-love and self-respect. Additionally, recognizing your worth helps you set healthier boundaries. When you know your value, you no longer feel the need to say yes to everything. You understand that it is okay to say no when something doesn't align with your values or when it compromises your well-being. Setting boundaries isn't about being rude or dismissive. It's about protecting your energy and ensuring that you can give to others from a place of abundance, not depletion. Boundaries are essential for maintaining your own mental, emotional, and physical health. When you recognize your worth, you are more likely to respect yourself enough to set those boundaries and to enforce them when necessary. Living in alignment with your true self also means embracing your imperfections and understanding that you don't need to be perfect to be worthy. Many nice girls strive for perfection, constantly trying to meet the expectations of others, but perfection is an impossible standard. It's important to embrace the fact that you are human, and part of your inherent worth lies in your ability to learn, grow, and evolve. You don't need to be perfect to be deserving of love and respect. Your imperfections make you unique, and they are a part of what makes you valuable. As you begin to recognize your worth and stop basing it on external validation, you'll find that your relationships with others change. You'll attract people who respect you for who you are, rather than for what you can do for them. You'll create deeper, more authentic connections where mutual respect and appreciation are the foundation. The nice girl is often caught in relationships where she gives more than she receives, but when you understand your value, you will attract relationships that are balanced, where both parties give and receive in equal measure. Ultimately, the key to breaking free from the cycle of seeking approval and constantly trying to please others is to realize that you are enough as you are. Your worth doesn't come from your actions, from how much you do for others, or from how others see you. It comes from within. When you embrace your value and stop seeking external validation, you empower yourself to live a life that is true to who you are, not who others want you to be. You give yourself permission to live authentically, to prioritize your needs, and to confidently stand in your power. Your worth is not something that needs to be earned, it is already yours. Learning to say no is one of the most empowering and transformative skills you can develop. It can be uncomfortable at first, especially if you've spent a lot of time trying to please others and avoid conflict. Saying no doesn't come naturally to many people, particularly those who are used to being the nice girl. The fear of disappointing others, upsetting people, or appearing rude often makes us hesitate before setting boundaries. However, the ability to say no is not just about refusing requests, it's about protecting your time, your energy, and your well-being. Saying no is an act of self-respect, and it's essential for living a life that aligns with your true desires and values. When you are constantly saying yes to others, you are essentially saying no to yourself. You're sacrificing your time, your energy, and your peace of mind in favor of fulfilling other people's needs, even when it's at the expense of your own. Over time, this can lead to burnout, resentment, and frustration. The nice girl often ends up feeling drained, overwhelmed, and unappreciated because she puts everyone else's needs first. This pattern of saying yes without considering how it affects you is not sustainable, and it can cause long-term harm to your mental, emotional, and physical health. Saying no is not a rejection of the other person, it is simply an acknowledgement that you have your own priorities, boundaries, and needs that deserve to be respected. It's important to realize that when you say no, you are not being selfish, rude, or unkind. You are simply being honest about your capacity to take on additional responsibilities. You are recognizing that you cannot do everything, and that's okay. No one can, and no one should expect you to. By saying no, you are taking ownership of your time and your life, and that is a powerful statement to make. Learning to say no starts with understanding your own limits. Many people struggle with saying no because they fear disappointing others. But the reality is that saying yes when you don't want to can lead to much greater disappointment. When you overcommit yourself, you become stressed, exhausted, and potentially resentful of the person who made the request. The result is that you may end up doing a subpar job, or worse, you may neglect the things that are truly important to you. This cycle not only affects your well-being, but can also damage your relationships, as people can sense when you're saying yes out of obligation rather than genuine desire. You begin to lose your authenticity, and that creates an unhealthy dynamic in your relationships. The fear of disappointing others is often rooted in the belief that if you don't constantly give, you will be rejected or unloved. However, this belief is based on a flawed understanding of relationships. True relationships, whether they are romantic, familial, or friendships, are built on mutual respect, understanding, and healthy boundaries. People who care about you will understand if you need to say no to something. In fact, they will likely respect you more for it. When you prioritize yourself and your own needs, you show others how to treat you. You teach them that your time and energy are valuable and that you are worthy of respect. The more you practice saying no, the more confident you become in asserting your boundaries, and the more people will begin to respect those boundaries. It's also important to recognize that saying no does not have to be harsh or confrontational. You can say no in a way that is polite and respectful without sacrificing your needs. For example, instead of saying, "I don't have time for that," you can say, "I'm unable to commit to that right now." You can offer alternatives or solutions if appropriate, but the key is to remain firm in your decision. It's okay to offer an explanation if you feel it's necessary, but you are never obligated to justify your no to anyone. You don't owe anyone an explanation for choosing to protect your well-being. Your time is yours, and you have the right to decide how it's spent. Another important aspect of saying no is recognizing that your emotional and mental health are just as important as your physical health. When you constantly say yes to others, you may find yourself emotionally drained, anxious, or resentful. These feelings are a sign that you've overextended yourself. Emotional exhaustion can affect your relationships, your productivity, and your ability to enjoy life. Saying no helps you preserve your emotional energy, allowing you to engage more fully in the activities and relationships that matter most to you. It also gives you the space to focus on your personal growth, your passions, and your goals without constantly being pulled in a million different directions. As you start to embrace the power of no, you'll also begin to see how much more authentic and fulfilling your life becomes. When you stop saying yes out of obligation, you start making room for the things that truly align with your values and desires. You begin to prioritize activities and relationships that bring you joy and fulfillment rather than those that drain you. You can focus on personal growth, pursuing your goals, and nurturing your well-being. Your decisions become more intentional, and you stop living reactively to the demands of others. Instead, you start living proactively, creating a life that reflects your true priorities. The fear of conflict often holds us back from expressing our true feelings and desires. We worry that standing up for ourselves might result in confrontation, disagreement, or worse yet, rejection. This fear can cause us to suppress our own needs and desires in an effort to avoid upsetting those around us. For the nice girl, this fear is often magnified by the desire to maintain harmony and be liked. However, avoiding conflict at all costs comes with a significant price: the loss of personal authenticity and the neglect of our own needs. When we continually prioritize avoiding conflict over asserting our boundaries, we allow others to shape our lives, sometimes in ways that are harmful to us. Avoiding conflict often means suppressing our true feelings. Instead of saying what we truly need or want, we tend to go along with others' plans, desires, and expectations, even when doing so makes us uncomfortable or unhappy. The fear of creating tension or displeasing others can lead to internal frustration, anxiety, and feelings of powerlessness. This is especially true for individuals who have spent their lives being praised for their niceness and accommodating nature. The internalized belief that being nice means always agreeing or putting others first can create an unhealthy dynamic where our voice gets drowned out and our needs are ignored. The more we avoid conflict in the short term, the more resentment builds up over time. This quiet resentment can eat away at our mental and emotional well-being, making us feel disempowered, exhausted, and unfulfilled. The reality is that conflict is an unavoidable part of life. Disagreements and differences of opinion are natural, and they can actually be healthy if managed in a respectful and constructive way. Conflict, when approached with honesty and mutual respect, can lead to growth, deeper understanding, and stronger relationships. It's when we avoid conflict entirely that problems arise. Instead of facing issues head-on, we sweep them under the rug, hoping they will resolve themselves. Unfortunately, they rarely do. When we refuse to confront issues, they fester beneath the surface, creating an environment of tension, frustration, and emotional distance. The fear of conflict often stems from a lack of confidence in handling difficult situations. Many nice girls avoid confrontation because they fear being labeled as mean or difficult if they assert themselves. They worry that standing up for their needs might result in rejection or cause others to become upset with them. However, this fear is rooted in a misunderstanding of what true assertiveness is. Being assertive is not about being aggressive, rude, or dismissive. It's about expressing your thoughts, feelings, and needs in a direct, honest, and respectful manner. It's about standing up for yourself without stepping on others or compromising your values. Developing the courage to embrace conflict as an opportunity for growth rather than something to be feared is essential for breaking free from the cycle of people-pleasing. When you start viewing conflict as a natural and necessary part of healthy relationships, you can approach disagreements with a sense of calm and confidence. Instead of fearing rejection or tension, you can see it as a chance to clarify your boundaries, express your needs, and deepen your connection with others. Conflict, when approached with respect, can lead to greater understanding and stronger, more authentic relationships. One of the keys to managing conflict effectively is learning how to communicate assertively. This means being clear about your feelings and needs without apologizing for them. It's about expressing your thoughts without fear of judgment or rejection. Often, the nice girl apologizes too much even when there's no need to. This habitual apologizing reinforces the idea that you must always be in the wrong or responsible for others' feelings. Assertiveness, on the other hand, is about taking responsibility for your own thoughts, feelings, and actions without assuming that you need to carry the weight of other people's emotions. Learning to navigate conflict also requires an understanding that not everyone will agree with you, and that's okay. Not every disagreement has to lead to a fallout or end in a negative way. Sometimes people might be upset or disappointed when you assert your boundaries, but that doesn't mean you've done something wrong. It's a sign of growth and self-respect. Over time, you'll attract people who appreciate you for who you are and respect your boundaries rather than trying to manipulate or guilt you into compliance. It's also important to remember that conflict does not have to be confrontational. Healthy conflict involves expressing your feelings in a way that is respectful of others while also being true to yourself. Instead of avoiding difficult conversations, learn to approach them with empathy and understanding. Listen to the other person's perspective and express your own viewpoint in a calm and clear manner. Conflict resolution is about finding common ground and respecting each other's differences, not about winning or proving that you are right. In fact, the goal should not be to win the conflict, but to resolve it in a way that is beneficial for both parties. Another aspect of handling conflict is knowing when to walk away. There are times when, despite your best efforts, the conflict becomes unproductive or toxic. In these situations, it's important to recognize when to step back and preserve your peace of mind. This doesn't mean avoiding the issue forever, but it means understanding that you don't have to engage in every conflict, especially when it's no longer healthy or constructive. Walking away doesn't mean you're weak or scared. It means you are choosing to protect your well-being and avoid unnecessary drama. Asserting yourself and embracing conflict also means knowing that your needs are just as important as anyone else's. It's easy to fall into the trap of believing that the needs and desires of others should always come first, but this mindset ultimately leads to resentment and dissatisfaction. You have the right to advocate for your own needs and desires, just as others do. When you stop avoiding conflict and start speaking up for yourself, you start to create a life that is in alignment with your values and your true self. In conclusion, the fear of conflict often leads to emotional suppression, frustration, and the loss of personal authenticity. By learning to embrace conflict as a natural part of life, you can free yourself from the cycle of people-pleasing and start living in a way that is true to yourself. Conflict, when approached with respect, is an opportunity for growth, deeper understanding, and stronger relationships. The key is to develop the confidence to express your thoughts, feelings, and needs in a way that is honest, clear, and respectful. By doing so, you will create stronger boundaries, deeper connections, and a life that reflects your true self. Many women, especially those who are conditioned to be nice from a young age, struggle with the idea of asking for what they truly want. It's easy to fall into the habit of putting others' needs before your own, thinking that by doing so you'll be liked or accepted. The nice girl often finds it hard to ask for what she needs because of the belief that doing so would make her seem selfish, demanding, or unworthy of those needs being met. This mindset, although rooted in good intentions, leads to a pattern of self-neglect. When you fail to ask for what you need, you are essentially denying yourself the opportunity to receive what you deserve. This can lead to feelings of frustration, resentment, and ultimately exhaustion. The fear of seeming selfish is one of the primary reasons why many women avoid asking for what they need. Society often promotes the idea that women should be selfless, constantly giving to others without expecting anything in return. This expectation is often internalized, leading to the belief that asking for what you need is inherently wrong or inconsiderate. However, in reality, it's impossible to serve others effectively or be fully present in relationships if your own needs are not being met. When we continuously give without asking for what we need, we begin to feel drained, unappreciated, and taken advantage of. This is because we're neglecting our own well-being in the process. The truth is, asking for what you need is an essential part of maintaining healthy relationships and ensuring that you are emotionally fulfilled. When you ask for what you need, you are advocating for yourself and communicating your desires clearly. By doing so, you invite the people around you to show up for you in ways that are meaningful and supportive. It's important to understand that asking for what you need doesn't make you weak or selfish, it makes you human. No one can fulfill your needs if you don't express them. The people in your life cannot read your mind, and while some may be intuitive, they still cannot know your exact needs unless you communicate them. The act of asking is also an act of self-respect. It shows that you value your own well-being and that you are willing to take steps to ensure that you are cared for. When you ask for what you need, you are demonstrating that you believe you deserve to have your emotional, physical, and mental needs met. This doesn't mean that every request will be granted, but simply expressing your needs is an important step toward taking control of your own life. It's a declaration that you are worthy of receiving just as much as you are worthy of giving. In addition to being a way of advocating for yourself, asking for what you need also fosters healthier, more balanced relationships. Relationships, whether romantic, familial, or friendships, are built on mutual respect and understanding. When you hide your needs or suppress your desires, it creates an imbalance in the relationship. Over time, this can lead to resentment and disconnection. When you openly express your needs, you allow others to understand you better and respond in ways that strengthen the bond between you. It also encourages others to ask for their own needs, creating a more equitable and authentic dynamic. One of the challenges in asking for what you need is the fear of rejection. Many women fear that if they ask for something, they might be met with refusal or even criticism. This fear can be paralyzing, causing them to avoid asking altogether. However, it's important to remember that rejection is not a reflection of your worth. Just because someone cannot meet your need doesn't mean that you are unworthy or that your need is unreasonable. It simply means that, for whatever reason, that particular person cannot fulfill that need at that time. This rejection does not diminish your value, nor does it mean that your need is invalid. It's also important to recognize that rejection, in some cases, might be a reflection of the other person's limitations, not yours. Everyone has their own boundaries and capacity to give, and understanding this can help you not take rejection personally. Learning to ask for what you need also requires a shift in mindset. Instead of thinking that your needs are a burden or an imposition, you can begin to view them as a natural part of your humanity. We all have needs, and it's perfectly normal to ask for them to be met. Reframing the act of asking as an expression of self-respect and self-care allows you to approach it with confidence and clarity. You can start small by asking for little things, such as asking for help with a task or asking for time to yourself. Gradually, as you become more comfortable with expressing your needs, you can work your way up to larger, more significant requests. Sometimes it's not just about asking for what you need in the moment, but also setting clear boundaries around your needs. Boundaries are the limits we set for how others treat us and how we allow them to affect our time, energy, and emotions. When we fail to communicate our needs or set boundaries around them, we risk being taken advantage of or feeling overwhelmed. Setting boundaries involves being clear about what you need and what you are willing to tolerate. It's important to understand that boundaries are not about controlling others, they are about protecting yourself and ensuring that you are living in alignment with your values.